The late afternoon glow spilled through the narrow windows of Harper Hill Bakery, painting soft streaks of gold across the tiled floor. It should have been the kind of warm, comforting place where birthdays were planned. Cakes were picked up, and small-town happiness flowed like frosting. But for Maya Carter, standing frozen at the counter, clutching her worn purse, the bakery felt like a quiet stage, where shame played its cruelest scenes. Her voice trembled as she forced out the words. I need to cancel the birthday cake order for Saturday. Her throat tightened with guilt. Her son, 8-year-old Evan, had been counting down the days to his birthday with breathless excitement. He had begged for a space-themed cake, dark blue icing, silver stars, a chocolate rocket ship soaring from the top. He had talked about it for weeks, telling his little friends that this year his party would be the coolest in the whole school. And now she was here, canceling the one thing she'd promised him, the bakery owner. Lydia Hayes lifted her head, her expression softening beneath her glasses. Oh, Maya. Sweetheart, are you sure? We already started shaping the rocket. Maya nodded, her fingers digging into the leather strap of her purse. She didn't dare explain the real reason, that her job at the elderly care home had cut her hours again, that her rent was late, that the next paycheck was already swallowed by bills, that she had $8 to stretch over the next 4 days. I'm so sorry, Maya whispered. I can still pay the deposit. I didn't mean to cause trouble. From the far corner booth, a man shifted slightly, his attention drawn by the quiet desperation in her voice. He was here only because his private car was being fueled across the street. He rarely stopped in small towns. He rarely slowed down for anything at all. But today, something had pulled Elias Rowe, billionaire tech visionary and founder of Rowe Innovations, through the bakery's door, dressed in a tailored navy suit. He looked like a page torn from a financial magazine, successful, polished, completely out of place among the mismatched mugs and handwritten chalkboard menus. But his eyes sharp, observant, tired, caught Maya's trembling hands. He watched her from behind the rim of his untouched coffee. Lydia reached over the counter and squeezed Maya's hand. Don't worry about the deposit. Use it next time. I know Evan's birthday means the world to you. Maya managed a weak smile, blinking back tears she refused to show. I'll figure something out. Maybe I'll make cupcakes at home. Cupcakes made with store-brand mix. No frosting, no decorations. A far cry from the epic space cake she'd promised. She turned, shoulders tight, and exited the bakery into the crisp air. Through the window, Elias watched as she sat inside an old dented sedan, placed her forehead against the steering wheel, and inhaled shakily. She stayed like that for several long seconds, long enough that Elias felt something inside him shift, something he hadn't felt in years. Lydia approached Elias with a refill. Rough situation, he murmured. You have no idea, Lydia sighed. Maya worked so hard. 2 jobs, raising Evan alone since his dad left. That boy's been dreaming about his birthday for months. Space theme, stars, rocket ship, you should have seen how much joy it gave him. Elias leaned back, absorbing every word. He had wealth, status, and a calendar booked months ahead with investors and innovators. But something about the small family's struggle gripped him. It tugged at an old memory he hadn't confronted in decades. A memory of his mother working 3 jobs, skipping meals so he could eat, missing sleep so he could celebrate his birthday with something special, even if it was just a homemade cupcake with a bent candle. Elias swallowed. What kind of cake was it? Oh, it was going to be beautiful, Lydia said with pride. Royal blue icing, little fondant planets, silver sprinkles. Evan wanted the rocket ship to look like it was shooting through space. I could tell that cake meant everything to him. Elias's wallet lay on the table untouched. But now, he reached for it with purpose. He placed 2 crisp bills onto the counter, enough to cover the entire order twice over. I'd like to pay for the cake. Lydia froze, mouth parting. Sir, that's very kind, but I can't just... And, Elias continued gently if possible. Whatever she had planned for the party, decorations, food, maybe even renting a space, Let me cover all of it. Lydia stared, stunned. Do you know Maya? No, Elias said with a soft breath. But I know what it feels like to look forward to a birthday you're told you can't have. Minutes later, plans were in motion. Lydia called Maya's friend. Elias called his head of logistics. What began as a simple act of kindness quickly expanded into something bigger, something heart-stirring, cinematic, and entirely out of character for a man who spent most of his days conquering the tech world. And as Elias left the bakery, the last rays of daylight warming his face, he had no idea how deeply this small act would weave him into Maya and Evan's lives, nor how profoundly they would alter his own. For now, all he knew was this: no child should feel they don't deserve to be celebrated, and he would make sure that Evan never felt that way again. 3 days passed. But for Maya, they felt like an eternity. She spent every spare minute feeling guilty, rehearsing ways to soften the disappointment she knew Evan would feel. She planned to wake early, cook his favorite pancakes, let him pick a movie, maybe take him to the park if the weather wasn't too cold. It wasn't a party, but at least it was something. At least she could give him that, Evan, bright-eyed and bubbling with excitement. He'd already drawn a picture of his dream cake with crayons. He taped it to the refrigerator the night before, carefully tracing his name across the rocket ship in crooked letters. Do you think it'll look like this, Mom? He asked. Maya smiled through a squeeze in her chest. Sweetheart, we might have to do something different this year. Different like cooler? The way he looked up at her, so hopeful, so trusting, made her turn away before the tears could surface. Get some sleep, she whispered. We'll make the best of it. But the next morning she woke to something she couldn't explain. A strange flutter in her stomach. A feeling she couldn't name. It wasn't hope exactly. More like anticipation. Something she hadn't felt in years. Ready for your birthday surprise? She asked as Evan climbed into the car with his baseball cap and untied shoes. Is it pancakes? Better. Whoa, he breathed, eyes widening. Better than pancakes? That must be big. Maya forced a smile. I guess we'll find out. As they drove toward the town's baseball field, Evan spotted balloons in the distance, all colors, all sizes, dancing wildly in the wind like planets orbiting an invisible sun. He leaned forward, palms flat against the window. Mom, what's that? You'll see, she whispered, heart pounding. She parked the car beside the fence, hands trembling on the steering wheel. Evan practically exploded out of the passenger seat. Before he could take more than 3 steps, a chorus of young voices broke across the field. Surprise. Evan froze. His classmates. His neighborhood friends. His teammates from Little League. They were all there holding baseball mitts, wearing caps, cheering like they'd been waiting just for him. Evan slowly turned toward Maya, confused and overwhelmed. Mom? What? What is this? Her eyes filled instantly and she bent down to his level. A birthday party, she whispered. For you, a real one. He stared at her, blinking fast. Then looked back at the field where a giant banner hung between 2 posts. Happy 8th birthday, Evan? Silver stars. Blue streamers. A tent filled with food, gifts, and decorations that looked more magical than anything he could have ever imagined. He ran forward, shouting his thanks into the open air, as if the sky itself had planned the whole thing. Maya watched him go.
I hear.
Tears streaming freely now. Someone gently approached her from behind. Pretty incredible, isn't it? She turned to see Lydia, smiling warmly. I don't understand, Maya choked. I couldn't. You didn't have to, Lydia said softly. Someone else made sure Evan had the birthday he deserved. Maya's breath caught. Who? Before Lydia could answer, a small hush fell across the group of adults gathered near the dugout, and then Maya saw him standing off to the side of the field. Hands in his suit pockets, watching with a quiet expression that was both gentle and unreadable, was Elias Rowe. He didn't look like a billionaire. He didn't look like a CEO. He looked like a man who hadn't expected to be standing on a dusty ball field, but somehow felt exactly where he needed to be. Maya approached slowly. Are you? The one who? His smile was modest, I hope you don't mind. I overheard you at the bakery. It didn't sit right with me that a kid should miss his birthday cake. But this. Maya gestured helplessly to the field, to the tents, to the decorations. This is too much. You didn't have to, he shook his head. Maybe not. But I wanted to. For a moment, she simply stared, unable to speak. She'd grown used to the world taking things from her time, energy, chances. Not giving, not like this. I don't know how to thank you, she whispered. You already did, Elias replied. Watching him smile is more thanks than I deserve. She didn't know what to say to that. So she just breath-tanned watched the impossible unfold. Across the field, Evan sprinted toward the tent where the cake stood proudly on a silver platter. When he lifted the lid, he gasped. It was perfect. Deep blue icing, silver stars, fondant planets. A rocket ship, his rocket ship lifting off the top in a trail of edible glitter. Exactly like the drawing on the refrigerator, Mom. Mom, look. Maya hurried over, placing a hand over her mouth as she saw the cake for the first time. She glanced back at Elias, who stood at a respectful distance, the quiet architect of a moment. He didn't want credit for. The rest of the afternoon unfolded like a dream. A volunteer coach organized a fast-paced baseball scrimmage. Parents clapped and laughed as kids chased each other across the field. Neighbors who barely knew Evan arrived with wrapped presents and warm smiles. A professional photographer someone Elias had called captured every priceless second. Through it all, Evan kept looking toward the man in the navy suit. Finally, with the stubborn courage only an 8-year-old possesses, he marched straight toward Elias. My mom says you made this all happen, Evan said breathlessly. And she says you're like some kind of birthday hero. Elias crouched down so his eyes met Evan's. I'm no hero, Evan. Your mom is. She works hard every day, so you can have a future full of possibilities. I just helped out today. Evan considered this seriously. Then threw his arms around Elias's neck with the fierce, unfiltered affection of a child who felt truly seen. Thank you, he whispered. This is the best day ever. Elias stiffened. At first he wasn't used to affection, let alone from a child, but slowly he wrapped his arms around Evan, something warm and unfamiliar blooming in his chest. The hug lasted only a moment, but it changed everything. Not just for Evan, not just for Maya, but for Elias. 2. As the sun set and the last families left the field, Maya walked toward Elias with her hands clasped nervously. I wish there was something I could do to repay you, she said quietly. There is, he answered. She looked up, startled. Just don't lose your kindness, he said. The world needs more of that. Maya's throat tightened. I won't. They stood there for a heartbeat longer, something unspoken passing between them, something gentle, something unexpected, something that felt like the beginning of something bigger. Neither of them could know just how intertwined their lives were about to become. But by Monday morning, everything would change. Monday morning arrived like a slap. The calm of the weekend evaporated the moment Maya stepped into the hospital. She wasn't even through the employee entrance when she saw her supervisor, Clara Whitman, standing beside the time clock with her arms crossed tightly across her chest. Claire was the type of woman who treated authority like oxygen. She needed it to live. And she had made it very clear many times. She did not think highly of Maya. There you are, Clara snapped before Maya could even clock in. You're late. Maya looked at the digital time display. It's 6:58. My shift starts at 7. You should be early, Clara fired back. Especially after disappearing Friday. A wave of confusion washed over Maya, disappearing. I left at my scheduled time. Clara raised one eyebrow, kind that communicated both suspicion and disdain. You left without checking with me. That's not how we operate here. Maya swallowed her frustration. You check with me? That phrase was beginning to feel like a leash around her throat. I didn't know there was an issue, Maya said quietly. There is now. Clara shoved a clipboard toward her. You're covering double rooms today. Consider it a consequence of your lack of communication. Took everything in Maya not to react. She needed this job. She couldn't afford another cut in hours. She couldn't afford anything that might affect Evan. I'll get started, she whispered. But as she turned away, she heard Clara mutter under her breath to another nurse. Single moms. Always dramatic excuses. The words plunged into Maya's chest like cold steel. But she forced herself forward. She had lived with judgment long enough to recognize when someone wanted a reaction, and she refused to give them that satisfaction. The weight of a new DAY for hours. Maya poured herself into her work, changing linens, taking vitals, cleaning wounds, calming patients, smiling when she didn't feel like smiling. The celebration glow from Evan's birthday felt like a distant memory now, a warm dream that real life was determined to smother. By noon, her hands were trembling from exhaustion. While charting notes, she reached into her pocket too. Check the time. Anne nearly jumped when she saw message from an unknown number. This is Elias. I hope today's kind to you. She closed her eyes for a moment. Kind today had been anything but. Before she could reply, Clara's voice exploded behind her. Phone's away, Maya. Unless you're texting your next excuse. Maya stiffened. Several nurses nearby exchanged uncomfortable looks, but none dared to intervene. That was the thing about working under Claire. Everyone feared being her next target. I wasn't. Don't speak. Just work, Clara ordered. Humiliation burned in Maya's chest. Not because she'd been called out, but because it was in front of people who already whispered about her being a struggling single mom. She forced herself to inhale deeply, then placed her phone face down on the counter. Clara walked away with the unmistakable strut of someone who believed they had one. They hadn't, not yet. A call from the poo across the city. Elias Rowe paced the penthouse floor of Rowe Innovations headquarters. But this time, he wasn't thinking about stock, projections, or product launches. He was thinking about Maya. He told himself it was concern. He told himself it was compassion. He didn't tell himself it was anything more. His assistant, Liam, entered the room with a stack of documents. You're not focusing today. Just thinking, Elias said, distracted, about the acquisition. Elias didn't answer. Liam cleared his throat. You do have a meeting scheduled with the board at 2. Yes. And a press interview at 4. And the yes. Liam, I remember. Elias snapped sharper than intended. Liam blinked. Right, just checking. Elias sighed. I'm sorry. It's just been a strange couple of days. You mean the birthday party? Liam asked carefully. Elias paused. Who told you about that? Sir, you paid for half the town to show up. Things like that get around. Elias rubbed his temples. He didn't mind that people had found out. What mattered was something else, something he hadn't even admitted to himself yet. The truth was simple. He had felt more human at that baseball field than in the last 5 years of boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions. Before he could say anything else, Liam's phone buzzed. He glanced at the notification, then straightened, eyes wide. Sir, you need to see this. He handed Elias the phone. It was a video filmed inside a hospital, and in the center of the frame, looking exhausted, humiliated, and small, was Maya. Clara's sharp voice filled the audio. Phone's away, Maya. Unless you're texting excuses for your pathetic personal life. Elias's jaw tightened. He felt heat rise in his chest. And it wasn't the kind of heat that wealth or power could cool. What hospital is this? Elias said in a voice that sent chills down Liam's spine. St. Mirren's, Liam replied. Should I do something? Elias didn't answer for several seconds. Finally, he said, prepare the car. The humiliation, ESCAL tack, at the hospital. Things got worse. Near the end of her shift, Maya was called into Clara's office. The door slammed shut behind her. "Sit," Clara ordered. Maya hesitated, but obeyed. Clara folded her hands on the desk, lips pressed into a thin line. "I've been reviewing your performance, and I've noticed a concerning decrease in your availability." "A decrease?" Maya whispered. "I've covered every shift you've given me." "Exactly," Clara said. "You're doing the bare minimum. Not volunteering. Not picking up extras. And you left Friday without confirming with me, because I had plans for my sons? Your personal life is not this hospital's problem," Clara cut in coldly. "And quite frankly, I'm beginning to wonder if your single mom routine is just a convenient excuse." Maya felt her stomach drop. Excuse? Yes, many women manage to have children without letting it interfere with their responsibilities. Tears stung behind Maya's eyes. "I'm doing the best I can." "Well, your best isn't good enough." Clara slid a paper across the desk. "A disciplinary write-up." Maya stared at it. Shock, pushing the words off the page. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "Fair," Clara laughed. "Life isn't fair, Maya. Maybe you should have thought about that before becoming a burden on this department." The room spun. Maya felt her hands tremble, her legs weakening beneath the crushing weight of humiliation. Clara leaned forward. "Sign it," just as Maya reached for the pen. The office door burst open with such force it smacked the wall behind it. Both women jumped, standing in the doorway, ouring. Composed and radiating quiet authority was Elias Rowe. Maya's breath caught. Clara blanched. The entire hallway outside fell silent. Who are you?" Clara stuttered. Elias stepped inside slowly. "I'm the man whose call you did not want to ignore today." Clara blinked rapidly. I wasn't expecting no," Elias said, voice calm but edged with steel. "No one expects to be confronted when they mistreat someone who cannot fight back." Maya felt her heart pounding. Her lungs tightened. She suddenly realized she had never seen Elias like this. Controlled, cold, dangerous, not. Dangerous to her, but dangerous to whoever hurt her. Clara attempted to... The gentleness in his voice broke her. I don't know." Nodded once, then faced Clara again, an expression hardening like stone. This woman worked through exhaustion to care for others. She sacrifices daily. She shows more strength than most of the executives I've met. Clara opened her mouth, but he held up one hand. "You belittled her, publicly, repeatedly, and now you're punishing her for something she didn't do wrong. I don't accept that characterization." Clara sputtered. "You don't have to," Elias said, "because your opinion no longer matters." He dialed a number on his phone. A man answered immediately. "Chairman Patel." "Elias Rowe. I need to discuss the leadership at St. Mirren's, particularly the toxic culture in the nursing department." Clara's face drained of all color. Maya felt her breath hitch. This was power. Used not to dominate, but to defend. A turning point when the call ended, Elias turned to Maya. "You're not signing anything," he said softly. "You're going home." Maya looked down at her trembling hands. "But my job, your job, is not at risk," Elias interrupted. "Not anymore." Clara swallowed hard. "I believe we can reach a constructive resolution, save it," Elias said. "You'll be hearing from the board." He placed a hand on Maya's shoulder with a touch so gentle she nearly broke down. "Come on," he whispered. "Let's get out of here." She followed him out of the office, barely aware of the stunned stares of nurses and staff, who watched the billionaire lead her through the hallway like someone escorting royalty. Outside, the sunlight felt different, less harsh, more like a promise. She turned to Elias, voice shaking. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes," he said quietly. "I did." Her eyes softened. "Why?" Elias hesitated then, for the first time since they met. He told her the truth. "Because no one ever did it for my mother." The world seemed to pause around them, and something in Maya's heart, something tired and bruised, opened like a door that had been locked for years. Monday arrived not with sunlight, but with a quiet heaviness that settled over Maya's apartment like a warning she couldn't explain. Even Evan felt it usually bursting out of bed. He moved slower than usual, clinging to his worn backpack like it carried secrets instead of school books. "Mom?" he asked as she buttoned up his jacket. "Yes, baby." "Nothing bad is going to happen today, right?" The question hit her heart like a cold wind. She knelt down and cupped his cheeks gently. "No, and even if something tries to, we'll get through it. But together. Always." He nodded, reassured enough to run toward the door. But Maya couldn't shake the feeling by the time she reached the cafe for her shift. She noticed whispers, stares. Two coworkers who had always smiled at her now pretended to be busy as she walked past. "Morning," she offered softly, no answer. She frowned, but continued changing into her apron. 10 minutes later, the cafe owner, Mr. Soren, called her to his office. Her stomach twisted. He never called anyone back there unless something was wrong. "Is everything okay?" she asked, stepping in. Mr. Soren's eyes rested heavily on her, not with anger but pity. "Something far worse." "Maya, can you sit down?" Her throat tightened. "Is this about the schedule?" "I can take more hours if you need," he sighed deeply. Fingers tapping the old wooden desk. "This morning I received a complaint." Her heartbeat stumbled. "A complaint? From who?" "From several parents," he said carefully. "About your closeness to Elias Rowe." Maya blinked, confused. "What?" "I'm not close to him. They claim you're using him to get attention," he continued quietly. "To get favors. That the birthday event was suspicious." Maya felt her breath shatter. "Suspicious?" "It was a children's party." "Yes, but rumors are spreading fast, Maya. People believe you're manipulating a billionaire. Some even called it unethical. Others say it's hurting our cafe's reputation." Her hands shook. "So you believe them?" "I don't," he whispered. "But I can't stop this wave. Not when customers are threatening to take their business elsewhere. I'm sorry." No, not like this. You're letting me go," she said, voice barely audible. Temporarily, he rushed to add, "just until things calm down. A few weeks. Please understand. A few weeks." They wouldn't survive a few days. Her throat closed around the panic rising inside her. "But I need this job." "I would depend on it." Mr. Soren looked away. "I know." She walked out with her apron in her hands, the manager's apology still echoing behind her. By the time she stepped outside, cold air hit her face and everything inside her collapsed at once. She had held so many things together for so long. But today, she broke. Tears came fast, unstoppable. She sank onto a nearby bench, pressing her palms to her eyes as if she could hide the world from seeing her pain, but someone did see. A shadow hesitated near her feet. Then a voice she recognized, quiet, warm, steady, cut through the tremor of her breathing. "Maya." Her heart stilled. She looked up. Elias stood there, dressed in a charcoal coat, holding a coffee he clearly had no intention of drinking anymore. His eyes widened the moment he saw her tears. "Maya, what happened?" She swallowed hard, forcing herself to speak. "I lost my job." Shock flared across his face. "What? Why?" She laughed bitterly. "You, apparently being near you makes me look like I'm manipulating you." Elias's jaw tightened, anger flickering through his expression like a lightning strike. "Who said that?" he demanded. "People. Parents from the school? Customers?" Her voice cracked. "Everyone." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Maya, none of this is your fault." She shook her head. "But it is." "If you hadn't seen me at that bakery, if I hadn't," he interrupted firmly, "your son wouldn't have had a birthday, and you'd still be struggling alone. I won't apologize for being where I was meant to be." Something inside her softened, but only for a moment because reality hit again. "I don't know what I'm going to do," she whispered. "I can't lose more. I can't let Evan see me fall apart." Her voice broke, and before she could stop herself, she leaned into him. She didn't mean to. She didn't plan to. But her forehead touched his chest, and Elias froze for a heartbeat then, gently, cautiously. He wrapped his arms around her. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't dramatic. It was human, warm, real. "I've got you," he whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." For a moment, she let herself believe it. Just one moment. When she finally pulled back, he kept his voice soft. "Maya, come with me. There's something you need to see." "Elias, I can't." "You can. And you should." She hesitated only a second before nodding. He led her toward a sleek car parked at the curb. Maya took a breath and climbed in, unsure of what waited on the other side of this moment. But when the car finally stopped in front of a towering glass building that stretched into the clouds, her breath caught. "What is this place?" she whispered. Elias looked at her gently. "My headquarters." Her eyes widened. "Why are we here?" He turned fully toward her. "Because you're not going to break, Maya," he said quietly. "Not while I can do something about it." She stared at him. Then he spoke the words that would change everything. "I have an offer for you." Walking into Row Industries felt like stepping from one universe into another. The air smelled faintly of polished steel and fresh paper. The lobby gleamed with marble floors so pristine Maya hesitated to step on them. People in tailored suits moved with purpose, tapping tablets, talking into earpieces. Their pace so quick, it made her feel like time moved differently here. Evan would have loved it, the automatic doors, the shiny elevators, the huge city view through the glass walls. But Maya, she only felt small. Elias stepped beside her, his presence quiet yet grounding. "Don't worry," he murmured. "You belong here more than you think." She forced a breath. "I doubt that." "Trust me," he said softly. "I don't say things I don't mean." Before she could respond, the elevator door slid open, and they stepped inside. As they rose floor by floor, Maya tried to steady her racing heartbeat. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To my office," he replied. Her stomach flipped. His office. In the tallest building she'd ever entered, when the doors opened again, they stepped into a floor, unlike the others, quiet, wide, soaked in natural light. A receptionist greeted them with a respectful nod, though her eyes widened slightly at the sight of Maya. Elias led her down a hallway lined with framed awards and photos from philanthropic events. But it wasn't the prestige that caught Maya's attention, it was how often he stood in the background, never in the spotlight, letting others shine. When they reached his office, she stopped. It wasn't an office. It was a world. A glass wall framed the skyline like a painting. Bookshelves lined the sides. A dark wooden desk sat near the window, elegant and powerful. But what surprised her most was a small corner filled with plants, a leather sofa, and a shelf of children's books, as if he sometimes needed a gentler world to balance the weight of his own. "Maya," he said quietly. Turning to face her, "I know you're overwhelmed, but I brought you here for a reason." She clasped her hands nervously. "What reason?" He motioned for her to sit on the sofa. When she did, he joined her, not behind his desk, not across the room, but beside her. It's close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. "I made some calls," he began. "To the cafe, to the school board, to a few parents who were spreading rumors." "You what?" "No one will talk about you that way again," he said. "I won't allow it." Maya's throat thickened, but he continued before she could speak. "And then I thought, that's not enough. Fixing one problem doesn't stop the next one. You need stability. Something real. Something long-term." She frowned. "Elias, what are you saying?" He breathed in, steady and certain. "Maya, I want to offer you a job." Her heart nearly stopped. "A job?" "Yes. Here. At Row Industries." She shook her head instantly. No, Elias. I can't work here." "I barely understand computers, let alone you don't need to," he interrupted. "I'm not offering you a corporate position." "Oh. Then what are you offering me?" He paused for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "I'm offering you a role as my personal liaison for community projects." She stared blankly. "A what?" You'd help manage outreach programs, food drives, tutoring initiatives, charity events, things you excel at naturally. Things that require kindness, empathy, and understanding. Traits you have more than anyone I've met. Her eyes blurred with tears. But why me? She whispered. Because you see people, he said softly. You don't judge. You don't pretend. You listen. The world needs more people like you. A small smile touched his lips. And so do I. She was silent. Not because she didn't believe him, but because the life he was offering felt like a dream. She wasn't allowed to touch Elias. I don't know if I'm good enough, she finally said. He leaned closer, his voice barely above a breath. You're more than good enough. You're exactly what this place needs. She wiped her eyes, overwhelmed. What about the hours? The pay. Evan, flexible hours, he said. A salary that'll give you breathing room again. And a childcare stipend if you need it. Her mouth fell open. That's too much. No, he said gently. It's exactly right. Silence hung between them, filled with emotions too deep to name. Maya swallowed hard. I don't want anyone thinking I got this because of you. They can think what they want, Elias replied. But you'll prove otherwise. And I'll be right here, backing you up, not because I pity you, but because I believe in you. She felt something in her chest loosen, a weight she'd carried far too long, and for the first time in months, she let herself hope. I'll accept, she whispered. If you're sure? Elias's eyes softened relief, sliding across his features so naturally it made her wonder how much he'd held inside too. I'm sure, then. Unexpectedly, he reached out and took her hand, a simple touch, but one that sent a ripple through both of them. Maya, he said quietly, you and Evan have changed my world more than you know. I don't want this to be the end of our story. Her breath caught. Elias. He released her hand gently. Let's start with this job. See where life takes us. No pressure. No expectations. Just possibility. Possibility. The one thing she'd almost forgotten how to dream about. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks, but this time, they weren't from fear. They were from freedom. They shook hands not as a billionaire and a struggling mother, not as charity and recipient, but as two people choosing a future neither had expected, as they walked out of his office together. The city stretched wide and bright beyond the glass, a reminder that even the hardest stories could have beginnings hiding inside their endings. And for Maya and Elias, this was only the beginning.